Hey everybody, Songtan here, Internet's busiest rap battle fan. Today, we're looking at King Dice versus Rouxls Kaard by GreenOwl. This is the 9th release from community newcomer GreenOwl, who has had a pretty interesting career so far, winning Best Newcomer in 2024. They're kind of set up to be one of the next big faces from the more recent crowd of newcomers into FRB. And it certainly seems that way, where a lot of people have had a lot of doubts and sort of worries about the future of the community. At least back in 2024, GreenOwl was one of the names that was really going around, making connections, and working on battles a lot. They had a few pretty solid foundational projects, I think, that came with their first battle, the Crossbones versus Decidui battle, and a similar thing with the Raven battle that they made. But those were mostly off of group efforts, the Raven battle being part of the 100-hour challenge, and the Crossbones one being an old COC script that they made into a battle. As for their solo efforts with projects like Sayori versus Sayaka, Kane versus Chris McClane, and the, what is it here? I'm gonna mispronounce it. Sokka versus Usopp? I think that's one. I think that's how you pronounce it. I thought those projects were fine, but nothing really all that significant. And as if GreenOwl was having trouble finding their footing already as a creator, they then proceeded to drop Scott the Woz versus Max Headroom Incident and Monica versus Mr. Beast, two more sort of jokey projects to see if that was their direction, and I really was not clicking with those. And yet again, we've taken yet another turn of direction here with Ezekiel versus Rantaro and this project, King Dice versus Rouxls Kaard. So let's actually get into the project here. As for the writing, I thought it was overall pretty solid. Nothing particularly stand out in my opinion. There's a couple lines that I enjoyed. The genre is swing line, and the I thought he lived in Inkwell bit were two solid showcases in writing. The main thing I want to point out for the writing here as a positive is that everything feels very in character in a sort of casual way, if that makes any sense. With characters like Rouxls Kaard and King Dice, you really got to lean into the characterization of these two, and these two do feel very appropriately in character. They don't feel generic in any way. It does not feel like sort of just normal characters. It feels like these are the characters, which is something that not every newcomer or even a lot of other creators might be able to quite grasp of. But I think GreenOwl has done a pretty good job on that end. As for some less than great lines, I noticed that the "no one would shop at your shack" line was used twice for some reason. I don't know if that was meant to be like a purposeful repeat. It does not feel that way, and part of that is something I'll explain in a second, but I did notice that twice in the script. I thought that was a bit weird. Also, in King Dice's opening 4 lines or so, he says rolls when he refers to rules, but it's pronounced like rolls, which is set up for the rhyme for souls, but that's not how the name is said, and GreenOwl knows that. Said as much in the announcer. Rules! That just caught my attention. But honestly, my biggest critique with the writing would have to be the pacing. It's a similar issue, honestly, again, to Rantaro versus Ezekiel, where it feels very fast. GreenOwl is writing with a pretty fast tempo here. I'd almost go as far as to say it feels too fast at times, as in there's too much going on. It really gets close to towing the line between this is a fast battle and this battle is too fast. It feels like it's towing that line a lot of the time. And especially with voices like Rouxls Kaard and King Dice, for me personally, it gets a little hard to pick up what they're saying from time to time. And so that's mostly where I had problems. Onto the audio part here. The first thing I want to touch on is the main performances as delivered by Dilly Dally and Dumb Schlop. I thought that Dilly Dally delivered a really great performance as King Dice, and same thing with Dumb Schlop. Both of them bring a lot of energy into the role. You can really tell that they're kind of going at their all here. They're giving it their all. That's what I meant to say. The cameos added are a sort of neat inclusion, but they're mixed sort of poorly, or the quality of the recordings is just not all the way there, which is, again, a bit strange. The rest of the battle sounds fine. But yeah, I just thought the cameos didn't sound all that great. I don't know what the specific thing is, whether it's an issue of mic or mixing or some combination of the two, but just noticed that. But of course, the main kind of thing we have to get on here is the stylization of this battle with the Friend Like Me sample from Aladdin being used. And I did think that was a bit randomly chosen. It felt a little randomly chosen. I get the sort of genre crossing here that GreenOwl is doing, and it's not the most unreasonable choice, but it just feels a little random, as in like, I don't see the correlation with the characters. It doesn't quite make sense. Again, it's not a bad... it wasn't done in a necessarily bad way, but it does not feel like the most thought out choice, if that makes any sense. It almost makes me question why they didn't sample anything from Cuphead specifically. But yeah, I thought the sample sounded a bit random and a bit weird. I'd go so far as to say it doesn't even quite sound like a rap beat at times, but I think that you can take a lot of different directions with it, so I'm not going to be a super strong like stickler for it, if that makes any sense. While I was rewatching this battle once with a few friends, we all had a sort of fear as we were like gearing up to watch it, mostly because on original watch or on a first watch, the singing melody feels a little overused. I don't actually think it is now that I've revisited the battle a few times, but I do think it lacks a bit of variation, as in it's the same melody, it's the same notes being spread across like a few lines here at a time, being used multiple times across the battle as a whole. And the melody itself isn't off-key, it's not necessarily bad. Dilly Dally, I think, adds a few interesting twists to it, but it doesn't ever feel like it's all that grand, if that makes sense. It just feels sort of repetitive to a point. But I wouldn't go as far as to say it was being like completely overused. I never walked away being like, when would they stop with this melody? But I did find myself thinking of like, okay, I would hope that they were building on to it in some way, and I don't know if they ever quite did. As for the video, I'll start with the more small stuff first before getting to my overall big critique here, which is that the keyframes often feel very sharp and like moving around a ton. It reminds me of a lot of older RNG edits, really, which, you know, I say that both in a good and bad way. I noticed this especially at the start of King Dice's second verse. The camera is moving around like a ton there. The use of overlays in this battle is fine. It doesn't, and usually overlays aren't meant to add that much, but in this one, I kind of noticed them more for some reason. I don't know if that was a blending thing or if I just didn't think they looked that good. I think especially the sort of like the motion lines one, I noticed, especially in like Rouxls Kaard verse 2, I thought that was a bit out of place. I didn't think it quite looked great. I don't know what the exact explanation is, but that's my personal thoughts on it. I have no idea why this happened. I mean, I have a guess if I were to throw one out there, but there's 4 lines of random typography towards the end of the battle. I have to assume this is a time-based thing, because if I'm not incorrect, this battle came out for Rap Battle Day, and I assume that was just trying to meet the deadline. But it isn't done in a particularly creative enough way for me to have reason to believe that it's not out of like a time limit. It's done in the same way that like old trip battles would used to do typography, where it's just the line moves and comes back, moves and comes back, and that's kind of it. And I infamously don't really like when people do that kind of thing for typography. I think it's just kind of lazy, honestly. And overall, my thoughts on the editing in general is that it has a lot of flash, and it tries to show off a lot of tricks at times, but it sort of lacks in proper ideas. You know what I mean? And I take this criticism to extend to a few GreenOwl edits that I've seen throughout my time, which is to say that GreenOwl has learned a lot of tricks in a very short time as an editor, and they certainly have the skill set of a high-level editor. The problem with that is that they aren't really using that skill set in a particularly inventive way. What sets editors like Shamario, Rabby, RNG, Guardian Dan, Triple Stabber, like all apart is that they tend to find new ideas over time, especially people like Trip and RNG, who have really gone on to like make big strides to do new things with editing. GreenOwl is sort of just taking the classics and just sort of using them. There's no new storyboarding ideas. It doesn't feel like anything's being particularly pushed all too well. It just feels like, hey, this cool thing that this editor did, I can do that too, which I don't think is a problem. I'm not trying to say that the editing is bad. I'm just saying for someone like GreenOwl, who I know puts a lot of thought into making videos look cool, the video looks very polished but it also looks very plain, if I'm to be honest. And overall, that's actually kind of my thought with this battle in general, in that it has a lot of flash and it's trying to ooze a lot of style. With the instrumentation and the sampling and the singing and the video. When you move past like that part of it, it feels a little bare bones. It doesn't have a strong enough foundation to where all the flash that's being added is necessarily making the foundation any brighter, if that makes sense. It really feels like GreenOwl has a ton of great ideas, but no way to sort of make them all come together in a project yet. And that's the kind of thing I think shows very well in a project like this, where it's all sort of like cool, fun ideas to watch a newcomer explore with relative success. You know, once again, I say all this to say that this battle is pretty good. It has its flaws. It's not the most like polished thing, but it has a lot of style going in its favor. The problem is that the style only really takes it so far before you're sort of coming to the realization that there's not much else being shown off here. It's a few good ideas that don't have enough of a thread to sort of put the pieces together. Which is why I'm feeling a light to decent 6 for this battle. Transition. Did you watch this battle? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Or would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another review that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel as well. Swing the Nissan Sano forever.